So when you're contacted by a customer to come and do a garden lighting design, the first thing you want to do is just have a little chat, get a brief, and just get an idea of what they think that they're going to be getting out of the job. Are there any special features they want to light? Are there any features that they don't want to light? At the end of the day, you have to present a very well balanced design. Now, initially, we are going to need some form of design to work from. Now, this can be in the form of a pencil drawing that you do, it can be a landscape drawing, or it can be a series of photographs that you take on your phone, which you can then use in a PDF for later. For those of you who want to, you can actually fly a drone up and you can take an overhead shot of the garden. On smaller gardens, this is really useful if there's no landscape drawing, because it gives you a real-time plan of the job, and from that you can then do your product selection and actual design. So the next stage in this process is we now go back to the office, we collate all our information, and we actually get the design done. And by the design, I mean we annotate the drawings with some form of key, and we will show you the key that we actually use. This will tell the customer exactly what the light is and where it's going, and that's very important. We also attach to that design the specification sheets for each light, so they can refer to those specification sheets as they're looking at your design. So these are the products we've actually selected from the Nitelux range for this project. They are 2-watt spike spots, 4-watt spike spots. We've then got our step lights and a transformer to run the whole job. A series of 3-way, 2-way and T-pieces will connect the lights together, coupled with the Nitelux link leads. We also have the 2-watt uplight for the red robin in the garden, and we have the weighted base, which we're going to use for the water feature. We've even got our cable pegs for burying and pegging the cables. So now we've done the design, let's walk you through the scheme. We need an outdoor power source, and for that we're going to be using an existing IP rated socket that's been tested and is safe. We're going to plug our Nitelux transformer straight into that. From that point on, everything in this garden will be low voltage. We're going to feed a photocell timer. This is a timed unit that will control the lights automatically without the customer having to interact with any switches. The very first thing we're going to light is this area here. This is very dark at night. We've had the brief from the customer. They sit on this terrace and would like a light. So we're going to be putting a light in there for them. We then come round to this area. And although you might think there's nothing to light here, we can actually take advantage of this feature and get the overhanging foliage. We continue round the garden and we will come to our water feature. Very simply, we're just going to click a weighted mounting base onto a spike spotlight and put it in the pond. All the leads, all the lights are rated to IP68. The cable will continue round and will come to a T connector. Again, you might think there's nothing to light in here, but once we've put our 4-watt spike spot in, we're actually going to capture these taller trees with a very soft light. This is the next feature we're going to be looking at. We can either light the sundial or we can light this red robin hedge. The client would prefer us to light the hedge. So we're going to put a 2-watt uplighter in the ground here and we will show you that process. Another T-piece brings us to this little feature. This gets very big in the summer. The client would like it lit. So we're going to put a little light here to light this. We then always need to try and light steps in the garden for safety reasons. We're going to show you how to do that, the method, and how we get a cable across this opening. We've now done this side of the garden. We now need to do this side of the garden to balance. And what we're going to do is just look at features that tell us they need lighting. And it's going to be this feature, and this feature. So the very last feature to be lit in this garden is this red robin. We can put a T-piece on our last light here and bring a cable through and put a spotlight in the garden bed right underneath. Again, this is another client requested aspect of the design because it can be seen through this window. Okay, so we found this socket that has existed. This socket is a socket that does the water feature, but it's really useful because we've got a spare way in it. It's protected by a sonar CBO, which is great. So what we'll be doing is we'll be plugging our Nitelux transformer into there.
and running a lead from the transformer over to this photocell, which will be our start point. And onto this photocell, we'll put a connector, and then we'll run the various leads out to the various places from here. And the nearest light is going to be this 2 watt here. So from that connector, we can go 2 metre lead across, and we can bring another 5 metre lead all the way past for that side of the garden, and another 5 metre lead running that way, so that we're branching from this and running around the garden. So 60 VA transformer, simply plug that into the socket. That will live right at the bottom down there. And then we'll put some split protective Copex over that and just clip that to the fence. So it's nice and out of sight, protected from the animals, and then we can continue with our leads. Okay, so starting at the start, always the Nitelux photocell, no programming, straight out the box. You've got dusk to dawn, various time settings, a constant on and a constant off, so we love these. This is always the start point, and because it's the start point, we're going to put a splitter straight on it, and from here we can run in various directions around the garden, and that takes us all the way around. So we've threaded our cable all the way around, tucked it under the ivy, and now we can just plug it into our first light position, tighten that up, and then just hide that so it's out of sight of animals and out of sight of the client, and so it's nice and safe there, ready for switching on. So Will's pulled me the first 2 metre over to here. It's got a female end on it, so we plug our T-piece on. That then feeds this spike light and then continues on so that I can feed the pond. So we've got our feed round to the pond, and I've gone for a 3-way connector here instead of a T-piece, so that we've got our 5 metre to continue around. We've got a 2 metre lead fitted to the pond light, so we've got maximum stretch within that pond if we need to adjust it. And then we've got a spare way there, just so that if we needed a second light in the pond or anything more local to this bush, we've got that without having to change the connector. So there's our 2 watt spike light on our water mounting base. So this is nice widespread, submergible, sinks straight to the bottom, IP68 connector. So we're going to go ahead and place that in the pond now. So we've got our feed around now to this light position, fitted a T-piece, fitted the light on, and we can continue to run around the garden. Okay, so we've got these concrete edgings that run all the way around, and we need to breach that. So to save drilling, I've had a little scan and I found a break in these edgings. So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to get our flat spade down there and push the cable right down and through this edging without actually having to damage it or drill through it. So I've got a nice flat spade there. Perfect spade for going through a lawn because it keeps a nice flat edge. So all we do is we just place it in there, give a good press down, push and pull, and then move it another spade length along, push and pull, and we work our way all along the cable run. If it gets hard, you can always do a double jump, and this opens a very small slot within the lawn that we can then put our cable down within. So now we've got our groove, all we can do is just use our fingers, push it right the way down to the hilt, and then work the cable along until we get to the connectors of our fitting, and we're now going to sink the fitting nice and neatly into the lawn and connect it up. So I've taken the shroud off of the fitting, so now I'm just going to put a very small indent into the lawn and trim round it with a knife. This just helps me feel for any stones or anything that might be in the way, and it keeps a nice plug if we do need to close the hole back up again. Okay, so I've just trimmed around this, so we kept that very small plug there. And now what we're going to do is put this in place, put a piece of wood on top, and then just gently hammer this down into the ground till it gets nice and flat. And then we'll lift this out, and it should take the plug of soil with it, which we can shoot out. Then put all our bits and pieces back in the shroud and push that firmly in the ground. That's now in the correct position. Okay, so with these lights, they come with 2 leads. The most important thing you must do is just double check the tightness of that female so that we know that's nice and watertight. You'll plug that in, screw it together, and then the whole lot can be hidden in the nice groove that we made with the spade. Just push it down nice and firmly, make sure it's as low as it goes, and then with a hammer, side by side, just work your way along, and you can totally close that lawn back up, and then straight down the middle. And as you can see, there's no evidence that you've been in there. So the tools you need here are a level, a wooden template with the 38mm hole cut inside, pencil and a tape measure. Now we've picked the middle step because when we fit this light, as that comes out, you're going to catch this front edge, this edge, and you're also going to glance the bottom step as well. What I've done is I've measured from the top of the step up 140 millimeters and then used the level to make sure that we're going to be putting our light directly on the front of the step. You see some people put them in the middles of steps, but the effect's not as good. You want to go above the edge of the step so that you get a nice variation of light coming out. Next, what I'm going to do, if you've got someone that can hold it, that's great, but you might not always have someone. Put your template over your cross, pin it with your foot, take your drill, start the first pull slow, and then once it bites, you're going to go full speed. So there's our eyelid there. So in this scenario, we're not actually going to use the casing. We've cut our 38mm hole there right the way through the brick. Just going to pass both ends through, collect them at the back, pull the slack through. Now I'll always coil a little bit up within the hole, just so that you can remove the light. If this cable gets pegged in the ground, in the future you can now pull that slack out of there and work on it if you needed to cut and chop into it. And then that will literally just push within that hole, make sure it's nice and level with the eyelid shape, and then we can brush this step off and tuck that behind there ready to be connected and continue the circuitry round. So you saw us do that step light. We then found another breach in the edging. We came through that, spaded it neatly through the lawn to get across the front of this step. We found another split joint within this concrete edging. We've sneaked our cable through there for a 4-watt spike light. Going to catch the foliage of this, which is going to look stunning. T-piece so that we can plug in and continue our cable along to the next light fitting. So here we've got a 4-watt spike light that we've just positioned within this fern. We're going to angle shoot here, so we're going to throw a caster light up that red robin from the side because we couldn't get in front of it. And same again, we've got our feed cable coming into the T-piece, down to the light, and a continuation piece for the final fitting on the circuit. So we've just pulled a trench through with one of these little handy mini picks, literally just scraped it through all the roots and everything, down a couple of inches. We've got our cable in that trough there nicely. Tap in the Nitelux pegs, they're tough on plastic, they hold it down nice and tight, they don't snap. And then what we can do is we can just brush that soil back over, knowing that the cable is easy to get to in the future and not too deep, but it is below the surface and away from the animals. So finally we're on the last fitting of the job. That's a 2-watt spike light, this is the end of line. So this is just going to shoot a very soft light right up within the crux of this tree, start hitting the bottoms of these red leaves, which is a totally different effect. So the whole scheme's gone in really well, and it's a good project because you're in and out within a day. We're going to show the client all the different lighting positions and of course show them the adjustability and just let them know, have a look at it at night time, and if you need anything moved, very simple to move.